Hello and welcome back to the Dividend Experiment, the channel that can help you build a portfolio that pays your bills. In today's video I'll give you a little look into a project I've been working on for a while. Actually I thought of it months ago when Trading212 first announced their pies, but I didn't want to finalise anything until the update had rolled out to all users. This is because while it was in beta testing, something might have been changed, improved or even scrapped completely, and this project took a little bit of organising, so I didn't want to change everything last minute. But now the update has been confirmed and rolled out, I can start planning it. So if you hadn't guessed already, this project is related to getting a dividend payment almost every single day. This idea is heavily dependent on having the Trading212 new pie feature, otherwise it would just be too complicated to maintain the positions and make sure they're kept balanced, and then reinvest every time that you get a new dividend coming in. So let me explain how it all works, and then I'll go into detail on how it was constructed. The concept behind the almost daily dividend portfolio is that basically the more often something compounds, the faster it will grow. So let's take a look at the compound interest calculator to see the difference. Let's say you start with £10,000 or however much you want for the example. Let's also say that the interest rate is a very reasonable 5%, which is not unrealistic when it comes to dividends. In fact, some of the companies in the portfolio are actually higher than that. If you compound once per year, that means that the total return will be £10,500. Very simple calculation, right? Now let's imagine you get that dividend every quarter and then reinvest it each time. It now becomes slightly larger at £10,509.45. A small but not insignificant difference there. You can see where I'm going with this as the title of the video is aimed at daily dividends, so let's just see where 365 compounding periods per year would look like. £10,512.67. Now you may be thinking that this isn't a huge difference from the quarterly, so what's the point? But let's expand that to a longer investment period than a year to see what difference it makes. So we're going to make it 45 years, which is a common investment period before retirement, and we're also going to add £6,000 a year from your savings to make the investment grow. So the daily dividend total is £1,113,355.11. So you get £5,000 for free just from compounding more often. Now that's pretty cool to get more money, but that's not the true benefit of this portfolio. The real benefit is being able to see exactly how much you get per day and see it increase every payout. It would be hard to beat visualizing progress like that. At the beginning of the year you might be getting a measly 1p per day, but the more you add to the portfolio the more it adds up. Eventually you can get a big enough portfolio that you can get your daily coffee on the way to work just from dividend payments, or whatever else you want to spend your money on each day. There's also a great feeling when a dividend comes in, so imagine getting that feeling every single day. Now of course this wouldn't be feasible before the pie feature came out, as you would have to administer so many different positions, but the Trading212 pie means you can just fund it and it should take care of itself. So the next thing I needed to do was to plan the portfolio. This was obviously the hard bit, as many companies actually pay out on the same day. Common days are the 1st of the month and the 15th of the month, as those are pretty convenient dates to split the month for investors that are investing for retirement income. So I made this grid and tried to find companies that would fill in all the various dates of the year. And here's that grid. It goes month by month horizontally, and the days of each month vertically, and the ticker symbol of the company should go in the correct pay date based on historical data and projections. I used DividendMax and DividendData.com for the historical pay dates and the projections. And this wasn't always easy, as sometimes companies don't pay at regular dates on year, so the first thing to note is that the dates are just rough guidelines rather than an exact science. I think it would be impossible to actually make a portfolio that strictly pays every day, and sometimes good enough is good enough. So after making the grid of dates, I needed to choose the components. A big problem with a set and forget portfolio like this is the fact that no investor wants to be paying attention to the stocks that are actually in the portfolio, and seeing what they say on earnings calls, annual meetings, etc. So the first criteria I set were these need to be reliable stocks. In the case of dividends, there are many occasions where a shaky company is still paying out dividends when it really shouldn't be according to its financial position. And the last thing we want in a complicated portfolio like this is for one of the companies to cut the dividend completely, forcing us to rearrange it all again. So criteria 1 was that these need to be safe, reliable companies with a decent dividend history that weren't showing any short-term warning signs. Now of course you can't predict another event like COVID-19 in the next 5 to 10 years, but I'm about 90 to 95% sure they won't cut their dividend of the ones I've selected in this portfolio. The second criteria was actually more important than the first, and it was that Trading212 must have the company in their selection of companies. I was actually pleasantly surprised that almost all of the companies that I researched did actually appear in the available database of Trading212 stocks and ETFs. The only ones it didn't have were some obscure weird bond ETFs that I wasn't really expecting it to have anyway, because normal people wouldn't buy them. The next thing I aimed for was to get as many stable monthly payers as I could find, as they would offer 12 payments per year, and as there is a limit to how many stocks you can hold in a pie, you have to get a good bang for your buck. Now, there obviously aren't many reliable monthly paying stocks, but I have found a decent number. After stable monthly payers, I wanted a stable quarterly payers, and unfortunately the USA does both monthly and quarterly payers better than us here in the UK, which usually pays semi-annually and occasionally annually. This means that the portfolio is heavily weighted to US stocks. But for quarterly paying dividend stocks that have a good history, my first stop was the list of dividend aristocrats. I tried to find a range of sectors and industries, and also tried within reason to find the stocks with the highest yield available. Some got discarded for not paying enough, and others for the low yield, and then others for repeatedly paying on the same gosh darn day, and this was my biggest frustration creating this portfolio. But with the monthly payers and the aristocrats, the list was shaping up to be pretty good. Finally, I added a few of my favourite stocks that maybe aren't quite dividend aristocrats, but still have a good few years of dividend history, and seem like they're in a safe place to keep paying out. That can be based on the industry they operate in, or a case-by-case basis. I then hit the limit of the amount of stocks I can hold in the portfolio and be able to share the pie, and it seemed like it was almost at the point where most of the days were filled in on the grid, so I stopped at that point as I still wanted to be able to share the pie with you guys. The final total amount of dividend payments that this portfolio should provide, assuming there are no surprising cuts to the dividend, is 260 payments over the course of the year. This means that it really is an almost daily dividend portfolio, with 70% of the days being filled in on the grid. Hopefully we can make it grow and see how it compounds. With this almost daily dividend pie portfolio, I'll be updating you as an addition to the monthly portfolio update. I'll show you all the dividends I get each month and how it all works out in that update. I'll also be adding any of the dividend payments from the dividend experiment into this pie as a kind of flow from there. If you'd like to have a copy of this almost daily dividend portfolio, then I should be able to share the link in the description and in the pinned comment. But first, you'll need to download Trading212. So if you don't have Trading212 yet, then don't forget to enter the promo code in the menu. Right now, the promo code is DivX212, but the updated code will always be in the description of this video, in case you end up watching this video sometime in the far future and it's changed. Now, I would like to say that there are some limitations to this kind of portfolio, and that is you won't actually get paid a dividend every day, despite the initial intention of the portfolio. There are only 260 payments after all. There's also the issue of the fact that brokers don't actually have to pay you exactly on the set payment day, so there may be a delay in some of the payments getting to you. This might mean that you get a few payments actually on the same day, but there's nothing that can be done to avoid that. This will also likely be the case on non-working days and holidays, so they'll be postponed to the next working day. You should think of this portfolio as more like a fun gimmick than a legitimate investing strategy, but if you're like me, it does seem like it'll be fun. So none of this channel constitutes financial advice. Follow at your peril. If you think that the dividend experiment's interesting, I need you to do 3 things. First, hit that subscribe button and the bell so you can stay informed for every video and update. I'll show you my portfolio every month, which stocks I've added to my watch list, and more interesting videos in between. Second, if you're a new investor, I highly recommend the Dividend Academy. It's completely free to join and gives you bite-sized lessons to get started, with none of that nonsense that others try and sell you for sky-high fees. Finally, open up a brokerage and get started building a portfolio that can pay your bills. I have some that I recommend in the description, and some will even give you a free share to start you off. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. See ya!